What's up, guys? It is Dave, it is Duncan, it is Kyle back from Metal Epidemic for another album review. For this review, Duncan, Kyle and I have been checking out the new album from Max Cavalera and the boys in Soulfly. The band's new album, Totem, will be released on August 5th via Nuclear Blast Records.
Totem? I didn't even know him. I actually don't even know what I was expecting to come out there, but it was shitter than I expected. I'm better than this.
Moving on, this is album number 12 from Soulfly, which follows up Ritual from 2018. The album was produced by Max alongside Arthur Risk and
Risky business.
both guest appearances from John Power from Eternal Champion, Chris Ulsh from Power Trip, and John Tardy from Obituary. This will also be the first album since the departure of guitarist Mark Rizzo, whose position of lead duties has been filled by producer Arthur Risk.
Risky business.
Busy guy. The band also features Zion Cavalera on drums and Mike Leon on bass. So, gentlemen,
Do we want to get the Rizzo controversy out the way just now? So he went nuts, didn't he?
Did he? I have no idea.
I think so. I think he went crazy over lockdown.
Oh, right.
I think he was like, the band's abandoned me. And I was like, no, the world's in lockdown, dude. They won't come and speak to me anymore. Lockdown. Hashtag lockdown. And then he's no longer in the band.
Oh.
So now that we've cleared the controversy,
Okay.
see how we did that nice and quick? We got the awkward elephant out the room.
Nice. Didn't even know about it, but yeah.
Right, these at the room. Right.
So Max has basically said that this album was created more in line with how him and Igor used to write the old Sepultura stuff, where they would just jam it out, basically. And basically, because of the pandemic, him and Zion were together during lockdown, and they ended up just doing the same thing for this album, basically just jamming ideas and having that longer period of time to try different things.
Yep. Ion like a lion in Zion. Huh? Loving it.
Wow. You are on form this evening.
I clearly am pitching for a different show. If you're interested, drop Dave an email.
No, or don't. Okay, so the Soulfly, I think out of the different like phases of Soulfly.
Ooh, phases! So this is like Marvel now. We're in the multiverse.
Phase one,
Soulfly universe.
I think I was all in on phase one. I like the new metal phase. I was in. I was thinking about it. I saw Soulfly live more times than any other band at that period. Every time they were in Scotland doing a tour, I was there. I think the first 4 albums I saw them on every single tour.
I only saw them on the Primitive tour.
Did you?
Yes, I saw them. I saw them. So did you? You saw them play with Glassjaw.
Yeah.
And that's the only time I've seen them.
Oh, right. I think I dragged my wife to that, actually, to the other times I went to see them. Unfortunately for her.
Your actual wife and not your review buddy wife.
No, not my work wife, no.
Your work.
Phase 2, however,
Phase 2.
when they started to kind of lean into that like kind of thrashier side of things, I kind of dipped in and out. Like I didn't dislike the albums, but
could you pull a check, please?
a little bit,
please.
A little bit. I didn't love that era of the band. I think mostly down to some of the productions. Some of the productions were just okay for me. This kind of last phase that they're on just now, or the kind of third phase, the last 3 albums where they've kind of pushed towards a bit more. There's a bit more kind of almost kind of death metal in there, but there's thrash, there's groove metal, a bit of a mix of things. I've kind of found myself back on the Soulfly train.
Oh,
yeah, I quite
Soul
like
Train.
Soul Train, my brother. I enjoyed. I enjoyed Archangel. I'm sorry, I apologise for that.
Yeah.
And then I actually really liked Ritual. I thought Ritual was one of the best things they'd done in a while. And I'd say this album kind of continues and that's kind of similar vibe to Ritual. Again, it's a really good mix of groove metal, thrash. There's a little bit of death metal in there as well, but it's got like a kind of earthier, more kind of old school kind of tone to it. And part of that does come down to the production from Arthur and Max's production. It's got a bit of a kind of grainier, more old school sound, which I like. And I think the style they've kind of opted for on Totem is well suited to the production. I'd also say this is probably one of the most aggressive albums I've heard from Soulfly in a while. I think this is one of the more kind of pissed off albums that Max has put out. You know, it's very direct, it's very straight to the point, and it does feel like an album that's kind of came together from jamming. Like, it has that kind of feel to it for me. It's got a very kind of natural flow, flow of ideas, but it still retains all the things that make Soulfly. You've got the tribal percussion. You've got the that kind of stomping grooves and the Max's kind of gruff tone and lyrical style. But it's amped up. It's packed full of that kind of up tempo, like almost kind of like an old school kind of Sepultura style riffs and rhythms. It's got a bit of Slayer in there as well, but it's mixed with that like trademark groove of Soulfly's. And I think when you add that and the solos as well from Arthur Risk, I think it does.
He's a great guitarist.
Yes, he's really good actually.
This is like back-to-back weeks that we are kind of reviewing something that he's directly playing on. Yeah. And the lead work is really fucking good. It's really good. It's
very old school as well, which kind of feeds into the whole kind of theme that they've got going on.
Yeah.
Very Kerry King in places. But the vocals plus that style and the solos plus that style and the vocals are very much produced in a way that harks back to that like 90s death metal sound, where it's like heavy on the reverb. They've got that like that kind of the old school like backwards reverb thing going on as well. It's quite. I found this album quite nostalgic in a way. There's a lot of kind of throwbacks, a lot of references to that time, which was pretty cool to hear. The only kind of curveballs that came from me was the last two tracks, and especially where they're placed on the album. But after I'd heard it, I was like, "Oh right, okay, that's not what I was expecting for the last two tracks." But I then read an interview with Max, and he said that he initially thought about making just the album 8 tracks, so not actually having those 2 tracks on the end, because they do sound quite different to the rest of the album. But after kind of like discussing it with the band and letting them hear it and letting Arthur Risk hear it as well, they decided to actually have it on the album. And actually, after I listened to it a few times, I actually quite enjoyed the 2 tracks at the end. Soulfly 12, which is the kind of penultimate track, is like a kind of traditional instrumental where they've kind of experimented with different clean sounds and effects. And Max has basically said he was inspired by bands like The Cure and Sisters of Mercy. And you can totally pick that up from that last track. Then it merges well into the closing track, which is Spirit Animal. And it's the longest track on the album at 9.5 minutes. It's kind of a kind of builder track, which like kind of slowly kind of reaches a kind of like hostile peak in the middle, and then it gradually plays out into something slower and more kind of percussive and tribal. And I quite liked the way that the album closed with that kind of sound going on. I might be a bit of a mark for Soulfly because I do like a lot of the albums. Apart from that middle section wasn't great, but I like the start and I like what they've been doing recently. And I quite enjoyed this as well. It's fairly, short, sharp, to the point. It's a very easy listen. I thought it kind of flew in, to be honest. It's a sound that I wouldn't mind hearing Soulfly continue to do. I quite like this kind of more old school sound. And there's, that kind of tinge of death metal in there as well. I think it really suits them, in my opinion. And I think having Arthur Risk in the producer seat and the addition of the kind of lead work, I think he is the perfect match for the band. I enjoyed this more than I thought I was gonna. I heard a few of the singles and I was like, yeah, sounds alright, sounds not too bad. But once I've now listened to the album and I've had a few spins of it, quite enjoying it. Yeah, must admit, quite enjoying it. What about you guys? Did you totemly love this album, or was it a totem load of shite? Duncan. Let's have a wee drink here.
There's a poison in that.
Cheers.
Please tell me there is. So
In
yeah,
fact,
what-
didn't bother.
no,
Anyway.
no. Right. So we went to see RoboCop last night,
We did,
and outside there, I was spitballing with Dave, and what I was telling him is Soulfly are a weird entity to me, in that I, like yourself, Dave, love what we're now calling Phase 1. I'm all like, those first two albums are just the tits, man. Honestly, I still regularly go back to their debut album. I think their debut album is about as close to perfect
Yeah.
the combination of Max Cavalera and new metal ever got. It's kind of like it took. I know, not to go off on a sidetrack, but he's obviously doing a lot of press just now, and he's hammering home that Roots is not a new metal album. Dude, it's a new metal album, right? It really, really fucking is, right? That's not a bad thing. It's what, like, if you ask me to like rhyme off the top 5 new metal albums ever made, chances are Roots is in there. Like it's fucking incredible. Yes, it still has the tinges of the old thrash sound that kind of made Sepultura great, but come on.
There's elements of new metal in it. I don't know if I'd go
definitely.
all out and say it's a new metal album, but I mean, like tracks like Dusted are not new metal. I mean, like, come
but
on.
that's one track.
But there's a lot of tracks that are not new metal on that album.
I would say it's predominantly new metal. I would say that the balance is about 70% new metal, 30% not new metal.
Oh, I would say the other way.
You are an insane man, but that is a debate for a different day, right? So, like, their debut album and Primitive, great 2 albums. And then, very much like yourself, Dave, I started to very quickly check out. It became a wee bit too... I know you were saying about the thrash phase, but just before that thrash phase, it became a bit too much like, well, this Primitive stuff that we did, where we were using all these tribal instruments, that's really interesting now. We should really lean into that. And I think it's cool as a bit of seasoning on top of your steak. Like, I wouldn't want a bit of steak seasoned over my like fucking like seasoning powder, because that's basically what it felt like. They went into the weeds with all that shit, and I lost interest. And then they kind of they have dotted around for a while now, releasing albums where I think there's a handful of really good songs in them, and the rest is relatively run of the mill. And that's including the previous 2. Which I thought were okay. Like, once again, there's about 3 or 4 songs I'm like, this is fucking great. And then the rest is like, right, well, I can see it's in keeping with the tone of the album, but I don't necessarily think you're bringing anything new to the table, which in stark contrast to the other band, which would be Sepultura. Remember Sepultura, guys? They've went the other way. So, like, every album sounds like they're constantly trying to develop or adapt or change their sound. And the problem with that is, like, that also loses my attention. Like, there's no commonality in terms of 2 albums back to back actually sounding like they fit really well. There's always a core element for sure, but they move off. So I was interested when we came to Totem, because this is the first time I'm sitting to review a Soulfly album in a while. So I put the old reviews cap on, where I was trying to, hats on there, and it's got 2 spaces.
Backwards? Was it backwards?
It was backwards. It has 2 spaces for cans with the wee straws in there. It was great. But I went into this with a bit more of an open mind, I would say.
Okay.
And it hasn't completely won me over, if I'm honest. However, that being said, there is, once again, a handful of songs on here that are primo top quality Soulfly. Like, just amazing. Like, Scour of the Vile, track 2. And then you get 3 bangers back to back. Rotten Pain, The Damage Done, and Totem. Those 3 tracks back to back are just, give me a whole album of that, and I am smiling ear to ear. I think at times, let's talk about the stuff that's really good. Arthur Risk's guitar playing is fucking phenomenal, and actually, if anything, made me wonder, and they had another guitarist, and he did a certain thing, and he's not there anymore. But it does kind of make me feel like I have been cheated for bitching solos, and maybe that would have elevated some of the previous albums with something with far more of an interesting lead presence on them for that thrashier sound or that death metal-y sound. I think that's probably what's been missing, and that added element in here is super interesting. It breaks up the songs. It also breaks up a bit of the monotony, which you do get with Max's very monotone style of delivery. I'm not throwing stones. It works on this very much like Tom Araya's vocals work on a Slayer album. Doesn't really stretch what he's doing. Doesn't need to. So you've got that element, which I think elevates the album for sure. I think the aforementioned tracks that we've already discussed, like Scour of the Vile, Rotten Pain, The Damage Done, Totem, even the work on Ancestors, like the lead work is really fucking good. And I found that super interesting. The production is great. Like you say, Dave, it kind of captures that 90s old school vibe, but it doesn't. It captures it without changing it. This is not an album trying to emulate that. It's just taking the best aesthetics of that and bringing it in a modern environment. I didn't know it was his son that was playing drums. So, like, well done to him. He's like clearly got a bit of his uncle in him. Especially on the tribal stuff, you were getting those, you know, those things that kick in a bit. So I was like, oh yes, loving a bit of that. But ultimately, where I ended up on this one is I think there's a few tracks that to me are just not memorable. They finish and then I'm like, all right, cool. Now I try and think about what actually happened in the song and I couldn't do it. Right. And I went back to it today, making it the third visit to the album overall. And I kept like, there was something about me that was like, I just need to get certain tracks out of the way and just get to the ones that I really want. I am not a fan of Soulfly 12. I actually think it takes a lot of the wind out of the sails of Spirit Animal, which could have just been the closer. That build up at the beginning on that one starts in an unassuming way, which is adding all those elements in. It builds to the ferocity and like closes out in a really, really nice way. That an instrumental track beforehand, to me, doesn't add any value to the album. That being said, it's really well written, and it's interesting to see him once again shows that he's not the paint-by-number musician that a lot of people think he actually is. Even this stage, thinking about this as well, you've now got him doing this, which is him sounding, like you said, as aggressive as he sounded in the last, decade and a half. And his brother is out with that, what was the name of the EP? The Plague thing.
Absent Body.
Yes, all that. And that is one of the heaviest things I've fucking heard this year. So the two of them, like, well into their 50s now, are still delivering music which is powerfully aggressive in a way which makes me smile. So I don't know. It's not so like if you're a mark for Soulfly, I'm a mark for the first two albums, Soulfly, and I'm fully aware I'll never get that again. That ship has sailed, and that genre is kind of gone, and I don't want him to go back. And this is Bleed 3. I don't want that. At the same time, though, I think when Totem when it's on fire, when it hits the mark, it delivers some of the best stuff that Soulfly's done in a long, long time. I just think there's a lot of stuff in here that isn't of that level. It's it's good, it's well written, very well recorded, but the stuff that shines on this album, like it noticeably shines against the rest. So yeah, it's nowhere near the stuff that I don't like. It's maybe not top tier, but there's plenty on here. If you're a Soulfly fan, if you're someone that just enjoys heavy music, there's a good handful of songs in here that will have you fucking head banging your head off. So
cool. Kyle?
Yeah, I too liked the first one album of Soulfly, and then quickly was like, "I'm out, bye."
You didn't like Primitive?
Just
back to the Primitive.
Back to the Primitive. Fuck all your politics.
Sorry, yeah, the first two. Sorry. Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you. We got him, Dave. We got him back. We got him back.
That's my mistake. I put that one on me.
Pain's such a fucking awesome track, isn't it?
Yeah.
Oh, that's
the most new metal. It's got Corey Taylor on it as well when he could still scream. Yeah, I mean,
before he stopped screaming.
Yeah, it's got
and just did that weird.
What's the name of that track? It's Pain. It's got Chino and Grady.
Yeah.
I want to listen to that.
Yeah.
Let's get that on. Right. Anyway, Kyle.
Sorry.
Totem's an album that I listen to. Let's put it that way.
Oh really? Oh no.
No, it's not terrible. It's not. It. I'll join both of you. It is better than I expected it to be. Ooh. It is definitely. I came into it with somewhat less of an open mind than Duncan.
You didn't come into it with arms wide open. No.
Didn't I was Fly free, Kyle.
Yeah.
No?
Well, I was at the end. Let's put it that way.
I'll come at my fucking nose, you prick.
But I don't know, it's quite hit and miss. Like, a bit more than what Duncan said. Like, the songs that are good are really good. And I was enjoying the grooves and all this and the riffs and the playing and all that. But the songs that didn't hit were definite misses. I was like, this should have been an EP and it would have hit a lot harder and have been a lot better if it was a bit more concise. Like Duncan, I didn't really see the point of Soulfly 12. Like, it was well done, and I can understand Max wanting to say, I could do something different. But, I mean, that's how it came across to me. Like, I'm not just a metal guy. Like, okay, you can turn off the distortion, good job. But I could definitely hear the influences from The Cure and all that, and not Twisted Sister, the other one.
Sisters of Mercy.
Yeah.
Twisted Sisters of Mercy. They're not going to take it. No, they're not going to take it.
Oh no.
Like Rotten Pain, I don't want to keep coming back to this, but it
was one of the best ones.
It's got a slow death metal stomp that just kind of makes you fucking smile.
Yeah.
And it makes you kind of wonder what he's been doing in the wilderness for the last decade. Just do that shit.
Right.
That's back. It's back now. There's whole albums of that shit that I love. I'm greedy. Like, just give me that.
Just don't get it. Just don't know why they can do such great stuff and then it be completely... I mean, it's not total crap or bad on the other side of it. It's just like not there, but it's not like it's not quite there. It's like this far away. It's quite far away for me. Like the songs they just, like Duncan said, they're just not memorable at all. Like, what was there? What happened? And it's like, but these songs that get stuck in your head and they got that incredible stomping grooves and all that. It's like, just keep that up. What's the problem? I don't understand. It's a bit frustrating because you hear like the 3 tracks in the middle, I agree, are great back to back, and then the last 3 are like, or 4 are like, huh? What? So you leave the album quite frustrated, like, what did I just... And a 9-minute track from Soulfly was not something I expected to hear or enjoy as much as I did. I liked that it built and built and built and then played out. I thought that was quite cool, and it was a good ending to the album, even if I did feel like I was sort of left a bit feeling funny after Soulfly 12, like, clean tones, all right, no singing, fine. What? Now we're back to thrash. All right, what's going on here?
I like that track. I think the placement of it was weird for me.
Yeah, I agree.
I think if they were going to use it, I think it probably been better earlier in the album, but I actually didn't mind the track. I just thought it was weird having it second last.
I feel like if they split it up into like a couple of parts and interspersed it through the album, or used more of those elements in different songs, it would have made more sense, but it was just like this strange 80s throwback clean bit right at the end of the album, just like where?
I suppose once again, if it's written in a way where they're like going back to just old school jamming in a room, that sort of stuff happens. You know yourself, when you're jamming music, once you've like you write a lot of heavy shit and then your brain starts to wander and then you're like, this is really fucking cool, just do this for half an hour, and then you come back and do it. So I once again, again, it's really well done. I don't even know if that, like, I was trying to think when you were talking about placement. I don't know where else I'd place it on the album, because I'm not like tracks 1 through 3. Track 2 is fucking amazing. Tracks 1 and 3 are fine, but then I wouldn't put it before Rotten Pain, and then
stuck it
like
after
4
Totem.
through 6 are fucking amazing. And I liked Ancestors. I think Totem's such a strong track that Ancestors kind of feels a lesser track because of where it's placed. And Ecstasy of Gold's pretty cool as well. So
I'd have stuck it in between Totem and Ancestors, because then you got the break between the two. So if one's stronger than the other, there's not such a harsh contrast between them. But I mean, we're nitpicking now.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, at the end of the day, he's like, had he taken those 2 songs off, would we be talking about it as much? Probably not. Sometimes you have to do that and make yourself less comfortable. He's obviously second guessed that opinion, and in some respects, I appreciate the fact that he, like, this far in his career, he can say, you know what, I'm going to fucking do a song like that, and I'm going to put it on my album, I'm going to put it out, and it might never get played live. Who cares? So
yeah, I can appreciate that for sure. Definitely, it's just a bit like, where are we going now? After a whole album of hard stomping grooves and thrash and death metal, it was like, oh yeah, all right, cool. Why? What? Just. Caught me completely off guard, just like, oh, okay. No foreshadowing, nothing, just here's some clean shit. Right. that's where we're going. That's what we're doing. Thanks, Max. I think
We are going to be all over the place with these grades. I'm loving it. I love reviews like this because you never fucking know. You never know.
So, ratings for
Come on,
Totem
Mark
by
boy.
Soulfly. I enjoyed
T-shirts
this.
that you're wearing, is that a Soulfly t-shirt?
It is not, no. I don't actually own one. I did
20
back in
gigs.
the days.
I've been seen them 40 times.
Well,
I
I
own
did buy
another
them.
one.
When I saw them in the first 4 tours, I did buy t-shirts, but I haven't for a while. I enjoyed this. I think I love the kind of old school feel of it. I love the production. I love the solos on it. There was a couple of tracks in it that maybe weren't as strong as the rest, but I didn't really have any issues with them, to be honest. Weird placement of the Soulfly 12 maybe, but yeah, I kind of dig it. I think it's short enough that I can go back to this and just throw it on when I'm in the mood for something just kind of aggressive and heavy. I'm gonna go 4 out of 5. Duncan, what do you
I
think?
should surprise no one. I am marginally lower than you. I'm a 3.5. Like I say, there's a handful of tracks here that I genuinely think are fucking great. And like to the point that, you know, the next Soulfly album, if our buddy Risky Business is back on guitar, I will definitely fucking check that out. And not because we're reviewing it, I'll definitely check it out because like they've got my attention back. I think those tracks being so good in some ways doesn't hurt the album, but it makes some of the other tracks feel a little bit lesser, even though they probably aren't. They just don't have that same pop or that same bang that the best on the album does. So yeah, 3.5. And trust me, that is higher than I expected on my way in here. I genuinely expected when you put this in the docket, I was like, this is going to be a middle of the road 3. Wipe my feet on the door on the way out, and or on the door. What do you call that thing? A doormat? Wipe my feet in the door. Look at me.
Heathen.
On the fucking door.
that's a real insult, isn't it? Not even a doormat, just on the door.
I wipe my feet on your door, sir. This is not a middle of the loaf album.
Middle of the loaf. Nice.
Yep.
It's
not for sure. It's not for sure, but it's not quite the outsider, Dave. It's not quite the outsider.
It's not outside.
So there we are. 3.5 out of 5.
Nice. Kyle.
I'm coming at the same as Duncan, 3.5.
Oh,
There's a lot to like, lot to love, actually, especially those solos from the
Risky
the
Business.
Risky Business.
You fucking need to hear that song that me and Dave reacted to.
Yeah, I do.
It's just like total old school fucking late 70s, early 80s fucking metal!
Yeah.
I'll check that out. Yeah, 3.5.
Cool.
Love the callbacks and everything's great, but just edit yourself next time.
Actually, we didn't really mention it, but the drumming on this is actually pretty good as well.
So I'm saying he's got shades of
A
his
young
uncle.
guy, but he's got chops. Like,
Yeah.
there's a couple of moments where he actually there's a couple of time signature changes on this as well. Like usually Max's stuff is all 4/4, but there's a couple of bits I was like, is that 5/4? What's going on there? That's like a wee change. Like, so I'm assuming it's to do with him because it's not really something Max usually does. On
He's probably sat behind the head going, come on, Dad, keep up, you fucking old cunt.
Probably.
You said an accidental polyrhythm.
If you add one, it's 5/4. Check it out.
Soulfly Totem is out on August 5th on Nuclear Blast. Check it out. Let us know what you think. It's out very soon. Comments below. Let us know what you think of the album. That's the review. Thank you for checking it out. We'll be back with another review very soon. But until then, take care. Speak to you soon.
Bye, everyone.